The news hit Canada like a jolt, an unexpected tremor that rippled through every corner of the country. From the bustling streets of Vancouver to the industrial heart of Ontario, Canadians awoke to headlines that would change the course of their economy and their relationship with their closest neighbor. President Trump's White House had slapped a 50% tariff on steel and aluminum imports, a move that sent shockwaves not just through boardrooms, but through entire communities built on cross-border trade. In Toronto boardrooms and Hamilton factories, disbelief quickly turned to anxiety. Executives scrambled to understand the implications, while workers on the factory floor wondered what the future would hold for their families. For many, it felt like a betrayal of decades of partnership, a sudden rupture in a relationship that had been carefully built over generations, with trust and mutual benefit at its core. Steelworkers in Sault Ste. Marie worried for their jobs. The uncertainty was palpable, as families discussed what these tariffs could mean for their livelihoods and their community's future. Montreal executives scrambled to recalculate costs, poring over spreadsheets late into the night, trying to find a way to keep their businesses afloat in the face of rising expenses and shrinking margins. Across the country, news anchors and economists debated the potential fallout, warning that the effects could ripple far beyond the steel and aluminum industries, touching everything from car manufacturing to construction. The scale of the tariffs was unprecedented, a blunt instrument, not a negotiation tactic. It was a move that threatened to upend the delicate balance of North American trade, and few could predict where it would lead. The Trump administration claimed it was about protecting American jobs, insisting that domestic industries needed shielding from foreign competition. But Canadians saw existential threats to integrated supply chains that had taken decades to build. Factories on both sides of the border depended on each other, and now, those connections were at risk. The shock soon gave way to resolve. Workers and business leaders alike began to rally, determined to defend their industries and their way of life. Canadian leaders from Ottawa to the provinces began strategizing, emergency meetings were called, and officials worked around the clock to craft a response that would protect Canadian interests. Hundreds of thousands of jobs were at stake, not just in steel and aluminum, but in industries that relied on those materials, jobs that supported families and entire communities. And so, the nation braced for a fight it hadn't chosen, but one it was determined to face together. Across Canada, a sense of unity began to grow, as people prepared to weather the coming storm. The calm was over. Canada was preparing for impact. The uncertainty was daunting, but the resolve was unmistakable. The US-Canada relationship had entered uncharted, stormy waters, and no one could say for sure what would come next. The Trump administration sidestepped traditional trade rules, invoking the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA, to justify the tariffs. This law, meant for national emergencies, was now being used to reshape trade with a close ally. Critics called it a misuse of emergency powers, bypassing Congress and the World Trade Organization. The result? A confusing two-tiered system where most Canadian goods stayed duty-free under USMCA, but steel and aluminum faced the full 50% tariff. Legal scholars warned this set a dangerous precedent, allowing any leader to declare a trade emergency for protectionist aims. The move signaled a shift from cooperation to unilateral action, destabilizing decades of global economic integration. This wasn't the first clash. In 2018, Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, citing national security. Canada hit back with dollar-for-dollar retaliatory tariffs, targeting politically sensitive U.S. goods. The dispute disrupted businesses and supply chains on both sides, showing how deeply the economies were linked. The standoff eased with the USMCA, but scars remained. That episode taught Canada the value of a firm, targeted response, and the risks of escalation. Now, those lessons guide Canada's strategy, measured but ready to retaliate if needed. The past trade war is a cautionary tale, shaping every move in today's conflict. The stakes are higher, and the memories still fresh. Canada's response to the recent tariffs has been a careful blend of public condemnation and strategic restraint, reflecting both the seriousness of the situation and the need for measured diplomacy. While the government has made its disapproval clear, it has also chosen not to escalate tensions unnecessarily, recognizing the importance of maintaining a stable relationship with its largest trading partner. In Ottawa, officials have denounced the tariffs as unjustified and harmful to both economies, but have deliberately avoided immediate retaliation. Instead, they have focused on rallying public support and engaging with allies to build a united front against the measures. Rather than responding with counter-tariffs right away, Canada is backing a series of legal challenges in U.S. courts, hoping that the judiciary will ultimately overturn the tariffs. This legal route is seen as a principled stand, emphasizing respect for international agreements and the rule of law. By taking this approach, Canada maintains the moral high ground, showing a commitment to resolving disputes through established legal channels, rather than engaging in a tit-for-tat escalation that could spiral out of control. With some lower courts already ruling against the administration's actions, Canada is placing its trust in the U.S. legal system to act as a check on executive overreach. This strategy is not without risks, but it demonstrates faith in democratic institutions and due process. Still, behind closed doors, Canadian officials are quietly preparing a comprehensive list of U.S. products that could be targeted for retaliation if legal efforts fail. This contingency planning ensures that Canada is not caught off guard and can respond swiftly if necessary. The overall strategy is one of patience and vigilance, waiting for the legal process to play out, but remaining ready to act decisively if the situation demands it. It's a careful balance, protecting Canadian interests and jobs, upholding international norms, and avoiding the kind of damaging trade war that could hurt both countries for years to come. The fate of Trump's tariffs now rests with the U.S. Supreme Court. Lower courts have ruled the use of IEEPA for trade protectionism illegal, but the administration has appealed. While the legal battle drags on, tariffs remain in force, creating uncertainty for businesses. The administration argues the president has broad authority to define national threats. The Supreme Court's decision could either check presidential power or set a precedent for sweeping executive control over trade. Billions of dollars and the future of U.S.-Canada trade hang in the balance. The outcome will reshape the rules for years to come. The tariffs' impact is already rippling through both economies, sending shockwaves from the heart of industry to the homes of everyday families. What began as a policy decision in government offices is now being felt on the ground, in the places where people work, shop, and live. U.S. manufacturers now face higher costs for Canadian steel and aluminum, the essential building blocks of countless products. These increased expenses force tough choices. Either raise prices for customers, cut into already thin profit margins, or in some cases, scale back production altogether. Automakers, construction firms, and even toy makers warn that consumers will soon pay more for cars, appliances, and everyday goods. The price hikes are not limited to luxury items. Basic necessities and household staples are also affected, making it harder for families to stretch their budgets. Inflation is rising, squeezing American families at the checkout counter and making every trip to the store a little more stressful. For many, the cost of living is climbing faster than their paychecks, putting added pressure on household finances. In Canada, the threat is to jobs. Steel and aluminum plants may be forced to cut shifts or lay off workers if U.S. demand drops. The uncertainty is unsettling for workers who have spent years, sometimes decades, building their lives around these industries. Industrial towns in Ontario and Quebec, where entire communities depend on these factories, now face an uncertain future. Local businesses, schools, and services all feel the strain when jobs are at risk. The policy meant to protect U.S. jobs could devastate Canadian communities, leaving families to wonder what comes next if the plants close or cut back. For both countries, the trade war is more than a political dispute. It's a tax on families and a threat to livelihoods. The uncertainty makes it hard for anyone to plan for the future, whether you're a worker, a business owner, or a parent. The pain is real, and it's spreading. News headlines capture the anxiety, but for those living it, the consequences are deeply personal and immediate. The longer the dispute drags on, the deeper the scars, on industries, on communities, and on the families caught in the middle. As autumn 2025 unfolds, the future of North American trade is uncertain. The Supreme Court's ruling will decide whether tariffs stay or go. A defeat for the administration could restore stability and open the door to repairing U.S.-Canada ties. A win could embolden more unilateral tariffs, risking global economic turmoil. Businesses are already hesitating, wary of unpredictable costs and shifting rules. For Canada, a permanent tariff regime could force a painful search for new markets. This fight is about more than steel. It's about the future of global cooperation versus economic nationalism. The world watches, hoping for stability but bracing for more turbulence.